This is Philosophy versus Improv, where two sages try to teach each other a thing or two, and maybe you, the audience, get something out of it as well.
My name is Bill Arnett, an improv field marshal, yet only a cadet in the world of philosophy.
This is Mark Linsenmeyer. As far as philosophy military rank, I tend to think that philosophy transcends the physical in general, let alone the martial.
Wow.
But yet, I would not want to pick a fight with an improviser.
Fair enough. Who knows what improbable thing they have just sitting in their pocket? What manner of weapon they could just create out of thin air?
Yeah, the power of imagination is pretty... let's think about it. The power of intellect versus the power of imagination. But depending on what kind of philosopher you are, the power of intellect might be along very, very narrow lines.
Sure. I have no idea what you brought in as a topic today, but I got to say this. There is a school within the improv community, maybe not a school, but there is a segment of the population. There's a little bit of child deification. You know, this idea that as a child, we have no judgment. We play freely and we don't judge ourselves. We don't judge others. We have unstoppable imaginations. And wow, isn't that great? Shouldn't we all be trying to regain some of that? I'm not necessarily in that camp, but I wonder in philosophy, is there any child deification? This notion of that, like somehow children are special humans because of their unspoiledness by the world.
I'm sure there are several strands of that. I was trying to think specifically whether, of course, ethically and politically, you could say that they have not been spoiled by society yet or something like that. And a lot is properly made of the skills, the intelligence, how much smarter children are really than us adults.
And the education system just turns all that off. It turns it all off. The wonder, everything. My opinion about that was probably made clear by my attitude in my and how I said it.
I've heard the analogy of a child it's like they're juggling plates, and the educational system could tenderly add one more plate, or it could just say, "Get all that out of there," and give them a giant tray of something appetizing.
Yeah. As I have two children in elementary and middle school age. And I got to say, talking to parents, for every 100 parents you talk to about what's wrong with schools, you get 101 opinions.
Well, okay. So at least one of the sets of parents has more than one opinion.
Yes.
That, once you've opened that, then it could be that 25% have four opinion. Okay. I'm losing.
And they're all contrary and not mutually inclusive. Yeah. You couldn't even put them in the same pile.
So some of them have apples and some of them have oranges, and you just can't even compare them. You can't even say how they are different.
Yeah.
When I'm called upon to give an opinion of something, I generally just say apple. And that seems like first ambiguous, so they can sort of derive, oh, so you agree with me. And second, then I can later use that analogy that you can't compare my opinion to, it really only works if somebody else says orange.
Yeah. People love that, I'm sure, when you pull that out.
It's not like the orange you glad I said banana thing. Like that is a next level. That's like the really skilled bullshitters.
Yes, I'm sure the ancients were very happy. We're very glad they did not say banana.
There are some Platonic dialogues that read a little like that famous knock knock joke of the where it's just like, this is crazy what you're saying for pages and pages and pages. And then finally he says banana and you're so relieved.
Did you have a topic, or did you want to talk about child deification? Or I actually had somewhat of a philosophy question.
Ask your question.
Okay. It's about pop philosophy and this idea that sometimes philosophy and philosophers get into the public realm.
It happens. Occasionally they escape.
Escape to or escape from?
I mean, I guess escape from their ivory towers where they're supposed to be.
Okay. Fair enough.
Locked up so they can't do harm to the polis.
Well, now I have forgotten the name of the guy, but a friend of mine says, "Oh, you should read about this guy's book." And I'm going to see if I can find it on the...
Was it Jordan Peterson?
It's not Jordan Peterson. I know enough to know not, but I think this person is in the Jordan Peterson sphere.
And it's not Sam Harris because
It is Sam Harris.
Oh, it is Sam Harris.
Okay. And I would love to know, as a philosopher, because most people are going to be approaching the pop philosopher, not from a philosopher's standpoint, but from a layman's standpoint.
Sam Harris sure puts the lame in layman.
I set you up for that.
You can quote me on that.
That was a batting practice meatball that you can just put right onto Sheffield Avenue. That was an easy one. I imagine that there's some tricks that pop. I mean, do they know they're talking to laymen, right?
I have been burned by saying slightly mean things about Sam Harris. I'll just say, when you're evaluating the work of a philosopher, it sort of depends who you're comparing them to. And I think the first time we considered him on the Partially Examined Life many, many years ago, we sort of did a New Atheism episode, and we'd been doing the greats of history. And so I think we properly pointed out that a contemporary figure like this, who is not a full-time academic, is not really steeped in the literature, is not going to be, it's a startling departure. He's a persuasive writer, obviously a very smart person, but you feel like you're reading a real lightweight compared to Plato and Hegel and stuff like that. But come on. That's not a fair comparison. When I compare somebody who's out doing something, trying to make a difference and encourage smart thinking in the public space, I mean, he's doing a better job than I am.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Effectively connecting with many, many, many people. And I did listen to his podcast for a while, and I found him a fascinating mind for a while. I haven't checked it out in a long time, but it's not that often that you get to see, I don't know, maybe with the rise of podcasters, it could be very often, but that you get to see a sharp mind interacting with these other sharp minds. Again, it's maybe not exactly the guests I would want to have on my show, but some of the guests.
What are we doing here, Mark? Are we not sharp minds?
I mean,
sharp enough? 85th percentile. I mean, come on now.
Mostly he's concerned with things in the scientific world, and he might have an episode on some bigwig on nutrition, or a lot of political figures, political commentators. I don't think he's actually trying to be a philosopher. I think that he has a well-loved among his fans book about ethics, but most of what he does is like saving people from theism, right? Saving people who have been brought up basically in a cult of religion, and then they say, "Oh, I read the Sam Harris book or some of these other similar books," and they now feel like they can question and they free them. Like, who's going to argue against that? That's just a nice thing.
Is it possible to deprogram without reprogramming?
Yes.
Wow. There we go.
Yes, because programming involves an immersive element.
Okay.
And even though you might say, oh, there's a cult of Jordan Peterson or a cult of Sam Harris, he does not literally extract at least very much money from them. They might buy his books and stuff, but they don't live on the compound with him and have sex with him and things like that.
Okay. So who does?
I mean, Nixium. I mean,
live on the compound.
Actual cults.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the way you said that they don't live on his compound implied he has a compound.
I don't know if he has a compound. He might. I don't think so. I think that he has a normal family life and seems to be an upstanding person. But if he has been canceled between when we record this, or I just didn't hear about it, then I completely denounce him. Because I go with the crowd, definitely. Whatever the crowd says about a person. Well, I should ask you then a comparable question about popular improvisers. Do you feel like those pop improvisers have debased the form by showing their pop improvising on the screen, and you're like, that's not real improv?
Kind of yes and no. I mean, it's good that improv is brought to the masses. Sometimes I feel like there can be, a lot of my friends are either in the art or cinema world or whatnot. And it's so easy to just like, mass consumers, and just like, Young Sheldon. Are you kidding? I didn't think anything could be worse than Big Bang Theory. But I think if you realize that, or at least I have come to believe that there will always be 15% of people who are not into pop mass culture because they're quote unquote beyond it. and then 15% of people who just don't get it. So you're still going to have 70% of people who love it and consume it in mass quantities. It's always going to be those percentages. So I could snap my fingers and make everybody read at a three grade level higher, and everybody more appreciative of the finer things in life. There's still going to be 70% of people who are in the middle, who make mass consumption, mass media what it is. And there's no escape from that. Does that make sense?
All right. So you're talking about, of course, comedy more generally, as opposed to improv. It's not like Young Sheldon. I don't know. They have actually some quite good comedians on the show as supporting players. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some riffing, if there's some improv that goes into.
Yes. I think there are certainly whose line is it anyway, people and whatnot. And I don't want to say that that's necessarily wrong or broken. I would love for people who see it to know that there is more and there are different things, and you can do a lot more with improv than just whose line is it anyway. But if that's what you want, boy, you're going to get it. You're going to get scoops of it. So I'm content being somewhat of a snobby elitist. In the same way with you in philosophy, it's like, look, I can't dog the guy because he's popular. I don't think he's doing damage. He may not be expanding the minds as much as you might like, Sam Harris, but he's not working against society or people's betterment. Is he? Do you think
Sam Harris, I don't think so. Jordan Peterson, even though that he has academic credentials and he has a book that some people like, but then what he's done since then, and that might be the same sort of thing, that Joe Rogan being an example of someone who will talk to some very highbrow people. Mm-hmm. That's not a good term to use. I'm supposed to never use that term. Do you know the origin of that term? Did we talk about that?
No.
It's like it's a super racist term is what it comes down to. But
okay.
Maybe it's racist toward Neanderthals because I don't actually know where the brows of the various surviving races.
We both have healthy brows. I would say in terms of square footage.
Let's talk about high hairline culture. I think that I don't remember what I started a sentence and I interrupted myself.
Jordan Peterson.
Right. So anything that gets people to think is a great gateway drug.
Sure.
And I would think anything that gets people, like the concept of improving is such a remote concept, I think, for most people, is like how they live their lives, such that I have not still been able to like get my kids to do scenes with me just in the car or something like.
I'm sorry. It's fun to do.
It is fun to do. And even though maybe I didn't catch them young enough, that if they were still the age of your kids, then they would do what they call the game, which is like basically Dungeons and Dragons without dice or characters or anything in advance. That it just
sounds like improv.
Yes, it is entirely like improv. Mm-hmm. And it would be, the then 12-year-old prompting the then 9-year-old, or maybe even these ages might even be too high, of like, yes, you're in a room and there's a well and there's a book down the well. And what do you do? So that sounds like improv. And if somebody is sort of running it, then even the youngest person could participate, even a 4-year-old.
No, I agree. Even a child with their amazing imagination and lack of judgment. Wow.
Even a child. So what is it about? Is it a school? What is it about social pressure that then says, don't do that? Improv's not cool.
I'm going to take it back. I'm not going to say even a child. I'm going to say especially a child. Especially a child. Especially
very wise.
The people who say those kinds of things, I'm convinced, have never been around young children. They can be horribly mean and nasty and cruel to each other and not realize it. And sometimes their imagination is for their own benefit. And when I've seen kids like playing samurai or cowboys and Indians or something, and it's like, no, I shot you. No, you shot me. It's just like, that's really bad improv. That's horrible improv. It's like, who's saying kids are so, well, why are we, who is this child who's, we keep talking about? They may be very imaginative on their own, but you get them together and they're horrible. They can be terrible with each other.
Yeah, they're not sensitive players. They don't yes and. They're like, no, that's not the way the rules go.
Thank you.
So what are you as parent then? Were you swooping in like, no, you have to establish the imaginative play area?
stop me if I've given this anecdote before, but we were talking about, I was in class, this was years ago, decades ago, talking about group scenes. I said, hey, let's just do like a 18 person, just get the full class up on stage and do one giant group scene. And half the group were essentially adults at a beach partying, just having fun at the beach. And then some kids came up to them and challenged them to a game of volleyball. It's like, yeah, all of our parents gave us $20 for ice cream. We'll challenge you to some volleyball. And of course, the adults are like, yeah, are you kidding? This will be awesome. Let me just finish pounding this beer and then we'll squash these kids and take their money and party. And then the kids huddle up and they're like, okay, yeah, these guys are pretty drunk and the sun's pretty hot. So let's maybe keep our sets a little bit higher than we normally would and kind of do a double zone defense and just like talking all this volleyball jargon. Clearly, these kids have no more. So it's like, okay, inebriated adults.
It's the whole thing.
Yes. Well, they start playing. They start playing volleyball. And one person kind of like makes a ball with their hands, and then they run across, pantomiming the ball going back and forth over the net. And they're kind of playing it like slow motion, like half speed, going back and forth. But the players, and again, I kind of have to ding a lot of the traditional improv wisdom about like, make a choice, stick to your choice, have an objective, and try to achieve your objective. And it's all these things that work better in a theater context where we know what the outcome will be. But in an improv context where we don't know what the outcome will be, suddenly you have people who feel like, if I don't win this game, then I'm improvising poorly. And people start making the most ridiculous digs and spikes. And it's like, this isn't interesting to watch, So, and I stopped them like, someone has to win and someone has to lose. And it doesn't mean you're a bad improviser for losing. It doesn't mean you didn't do the scene well. It's like, this is how the game of volleyball works. Take a step back and look at the big reality. What's funny to have happen? We're like, oh, yeah, that's right. We are building something together. It isn't just I'm improvising in my own little box and I have to obey all the rules and improvise correctly, yet be numb to what's outside me. It's like, no, we're building this thing together. And after I said that, there were still a few improbable plays, but eventually the adults figured out, oh, it would be funny if we lost. And then got angry and double or nothing. Of course, playing right into the kids' little con. Does that make sense?
Sure. That was a much more elaborate example than I expected.
Well, I warned you earlier, but it's this whole idea. I think that happens a lot. You get confused about what it is we're trying to achieve and where victory lies and where it doesn't. So many people get in arguments and it's like, what do you win if you win this argument?
I think you win a really long scene that we could engage in to take just as much time as we have just spent on conversation.
Well, okay. Yes, we can start a scene. Right? Would you like to start a scene right now?
If it's convenient, if it works with your lesson.
And there's even a lesson in here.
I'm ready.
Great. All right. Look, I just got word from HR. They're going to buy us lunch on Friday. Boom. Lunch on the company.
That's great.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. What do you think they're going to do? They better not do just like Giordano's or something boring like that. I hope they get something decent,
Yeah, like something with real fire to it. You got to like have some spice. When you get that in the office, you get some spice.
Well, we could, I guess. I don't know. I just don't want pizzas. That's all I'm saying. I just don't want
like the
cheap pizza.
The Thai place, you get some real spice. You get the spicy noodles. Oh,
yeah,
man.
They could, but do they have catering service? Can they do that? I don't know. It's a good Thai place. I've been there before.
I assume you gotta just call and ask, and you gotta lead though. Sometimes like if you sound American, either they don't want to serve you, which is I think very xenophobic. I don't know, but they don't give you the real spice. They gotta think that you have some sort of Thai roots.
Okay, you want me to put on a fakey Thai Asian voice?
I don't think so. I think that a lot of people with Asian backgrounds who were born in the States have, in fact, maybe talk in a very articulated way. So I think you could pass. That's a much less offensive way to do an imitation, because otherwise they're going to be like, hey, you're not even doing a Thai accent. You're doing a generic xenophobic Asian accent.
I don't want to pose as something. That seems not. I don't. You want me to? hey, we're just ordering food for the office. What's your name? I don't know. What's a common Thai name? I can't even tell you what's like the most common surname in Thailand.
I mean, is it not Nguyen? Like
I don't know.
Nujian?
I don't know. Da Nang. That's the only one I know.
I'm totally getting. I haven't
That's
actually
Vietnam.
done this. Yeah, I'm not actually so good at this. This is just.
Well, I'm not going to do it. Even if you could tell me what the most common Thai first and family name are.
We got to get my friend. We got to get Bruce in accounting to do this order because
this is horrible.
He is so good.
What you're asking is horrible.
At the accents because he studied, he was like a theater major and then he has been to Thailand. He spent like a whole semester there. And so he can totally
fine. We'll do it.
He knows the secret words to say.
This is obscene. This is absolutely, let me just say this right now. This is gross. Okay. If we're going to be like trying to like call this Thai restaurant and pretend like we're having some connection.
I mean, you gotta sacrifice to get the real spice.
Okay. I don't like when you say it like that. I understand what you're saying. And I appreciate that many cultural recipes make concessions to the dominant palate of the nation that they are in. I get and appreciate that.
You got to feel the spice for days. You got to feel like a sandworm.
Look, fine. Let's
you got to have it like just caked in your colon. So you just feel like you're having that meal again and again for the next 5 days.
Okay. You know what? I'll call Bruce. I'll call Bruce right now. Okay.
All right. See if Bruce is even in today. Cause I think he might.
Hey, Bruce, how's it going? Yeah.
He might be home with the spices.
Robert. Yeah. Down in receiving. Yeah. Here's the thing. First of all, we heard that HR. Yeah, I'm with Gary here. We heard that HR is going to be buying us lunch on Friday, and we're trying to pick. And Gary's thinking we should get that Thai place,
the one with the spice.
The one with the spice. We'll say, yeah,
spice.
Well, he's convinced that if we let them know that we are legit, that we are not just gringo,
You got
No. I didn't.
You got to express solidarity with the political situation over there. You got
Steve.
Look it up.
No, I didn't. No, I'm not. It's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. Well,
yeah, Gary, go over there. We don't need your input.
He is offended. Bruce is offended right now. He thinks, no, I'm sorry. No, gotcha, man. Gotcha. Yeah, but we are getting food on Friday. That wasn't okay. Hello. Wow, Steve. He was horrible. He's like, you want me to call there and put on some Chinese accent to call?
I could be misremembering. I mean, I find that very offensive. Chinese. It's Thailand.
Well, that's why
it's not China.
Well, I think that the subtle variations between regional Asian dialects would be hard for the average American to.
Well, that's why I thought I could maybe I had Bruce confused with one of the others.
Would you call?
Did Bruce go to drama school?
He said he did. I think he's offended in this for the same reason I'm offended.
All right. I mean, I could just do the call if you want to hear that. I mean, if you want to hold your ears because you're so politically sensitive that you think I'm going to be abusing. First, I gotta like do some quick research on what is going on here. Let me just Google what is going on. What is the weather? What time is it in Thailand? Okay. All right.
Are you calling from Bangkok? I don't think that's, I mean, I bet the Thai food there beats the pants off all the Thai food here.
Okay. The thing is, it's really late there right now in Thailand. So I don't
want to do it. You don't want to do it. You are admitting to me it would be offensive.
What about the weather? Let's see what is the weather? What is the,
all right, you know what? I will call.
Is it in Thailand?
I will call.
It's pretty nice there, but it's mostly cloudy.
I'm calling right now. I'm calling Taste of Siam
bring up the weather and that it's so late. And you're sorry it's so late in Thailand.
Yeah, hi. I'm calling from Morgan and Stern, just down right on the corner, or down from you. Yeah, there's the tall office building. We want to put in a catering order for Friday. Mm-hmm. Sure. Oh, okay. We can do it online. That's great. Oh, that's perfect. We can put all those special requests online. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. My friend is saying that apparently you all have some special recipes that
extra spice.
He just keeps saying extra spice, and I don't know if you have some.
Like, so you feel like a sandworm and you're shitting it for days. Tell him that.
Is this Dune? Are you confusing Dune with Thailand?
I'm just, it's a metaphor. It's just how you feel. It's how it makes you feel.
We'll hop online. And I just, hey, person to person here. I'm just kind of curious. I bet you probably have some customers who want a more authentic. Well, I know all your food is authentic. Yeah, sure. Well, I know, but yeah, okay. All right. Well, no, you're
getting duped.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. That wasn't.
Pooch is so screwed.
I put my foot in my mouth.
We're going to get the blandest food that they have.
Well,
they're going to make it extra bland.
Okay.
They're going to search out for some just dirt that's around the office, and they're going to put it on there instead of spice.
I really put my foot in my mouth there. I'm sorry. That was inappropriate.
That's just a sponge.
Okay. Yes.
So that when you ingest it, it sucks all the spice from your body.
Well, we'll jump online.
And you're still going to feel it for 5 days, but not in a good way.
All right. Okay. All right. Yes, I get it. And yes, I've apologized several times.
Now they're going to spit in it.
All right. Okay.
Clearly.
We won't forget the order. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you the name of the company again because you'll.
Yeah. No, we're going to get.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Goodbye. Wow, they laid it on thick. They laid it on real thick. I guess I feel like an idiot.
Yep, definitely.
I feel like an absolute idiot.
You should. You didn't play it cool. You were just like, it's like saying, I hear that you can be bribed. I am here to bribe you. You think that approach would work? You got to be smooth. You got to use the code words. You got to say, back in the mainland, it's 1:30 a.m. right now.
Why would they?
And the weather is partly cloudy, but otherwise temperate generally.
That is horrifying. All right, that is absolutely horrifying. And the Thai place is not going to give us food anymore anyway. So that's.
They just wanted you to order it online. It's not like we could just order it online.
Well,
anyway.
No, they wrote down the name of the business, and they're going to look for it and say. I was on that phone for a long time getting harangued in several languages.
We could just order it for the lawyer's office, and then we can just tell the lawyers, send it over here. As long as it's our credit card, I'm sure they'll be cool with it. We could even just put a sign in front of the lawyers, like say food next door.
I think we should not order from them. I think we should maybe get food somewhere else. I was thinking we could do like a brunch spread from Dixie Kitchen. They've got great stuff there. Southern kind of things and
Southern Nashville hot chicken
they've got lots of things
with the spice.
And I think, we can do that. Okay. And I don't feel uncomfortable affecting a Southern accent. All right. That's the other part of it.
Sounds good. Okay. The end of the scene.
We did at the end.
Kiss my grits. Sorry. You gotta have a punch.
Sir? Yeah.
You gotta have a punchline.
Yeah. I used to do references to Alice all the time in class, and they just slowly, it was just a perfect line, a slope of -1 of as the years went on, fewer and fewer people understanding references to Alice.
All right. You just got to update your references.
Yeah. There, you just got to, exactly. Alice was a good one because you have such specific behaviors, such specific characters.
And so many people got their start on that show. The all right guy, whose name is escaping me right now. He was on that show originally.
McConaughey? Really?
Yeah, he was I think he played the grits. I think that Alice was like, hey, kiss my grits, and then would hold up. And
an underage boy? Wow. That's daring television.
That's why it got
79. That's, yeah.
Because there was a lot of kissing of underage McConaughey on that show.
Wow.
I thought it was kind of like Flo had even, I think she left the show at some point. And so to think that Flo could be replaced with Matthew McConaughey as grits just for the kissing, I thought was,
Flo is irreplaceable.
Like Oliver in the Brady Bunch is just a bad idea.
I would replace Alice before I replaced Flo. Let's just be perfectly clear. As the few listeners with any point of reference for the TV show Alice, I think I am in the majority opinion here that Flo is less replaceable than Alice, the titular character.
I think Flo in a Brady Bunch setting would have been way better.
That would be, a little crossover. We'll get Alice. Wait a minute. Was the Brady Bunch Alice? Was that the?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So now we have two Alices on Alice and Flo on the Brady Bunch. Yeah.
I think that would not be a good move because it has to be the comic relief character. But yes, moving Alice from Alice into Alice from the Brady Bunch, that would be just confusing.
Yes.
It would be more about her relationship with Sam the Butcher. And, is she you'd be rooting for her, a will they, won't they thing. It feels like it was not really much rooting about with Alice and Sam, the current Alice.
Yeah.
In this timeline.
I would agree. I don't know if that's something, but I feel like in those old TV shows, characters like Alice on Brady Bunch were this I am perfectly content with my horrible station in life. Is that a thing?
I mean, if she had called, I'm just thinking of the courtship of Eddie's father. And is that I assume that is a super offensive stereotype, the Asian caregiver who refers to Bill Bixby's character as Mr. Eddie's father. And so if that character was put into the Brady Bunch, then it would be Mr.
You're doing the voice. Now you're doing the voice.
You got to be able to imagine. This is why children's imaginations get trampled down, because the children start to do offensive accents and everybody's like, don't do that.
Well, I had a bit I wanted to do about, how if you call customer service and you get someone clearly in India with the name Kevin, who you're talking to on customer service. And again, bless their hearts, they're trying to earn a rupee and I'm trying to get my thing fixed. That doesn't often go well. There is a language barrier. And sometimes that those customer service situations don't go well. But the bit would be me saying, I don't feel comfortable reproducing this guy's broken English accent, so I just won't. And it's just like, hello, I'm calling about my cell phone. Your internet coverage? No, my cell phone. Your internet coverage? No, I'm calling about my cell phone. Your internet coverage? It's my cell. And just like, it's not funny anymore. That's the whole point. The frustration is the breakdown in communication.
The thing is that people are used to their customer service people being in India, and India has a lot of highly educated people that can't get better work than that.
I appreciate
it's
that.
a very high level of competence. And so when somebody's using an American customer service company, I think often it actually is someone named Kevin, but they'll do that accent. So you think that you're calling India to give a better impression.
Okay. An American knucklehead affecting an Indian.
It's very offensive.
Accent. Okay.
It's super offensive.
But it makes us feel comfortable. Well, now I'm getting right to the source here. Now I'm so used to customer service offshored.
Yeah, that's just a stereotype.
Any guesses as to what I was doing in that scene?
I mean, you were luxuriating in the thought of the spice. You were letting it pervade your imagination. You were actually being very active and taking action. Was that it? That we're not just going to talk. You're actually going to get on the phone multiple times.
Yeah. Well, it's this idea that, and again, the pop culture improv note is, say yes, always go along. But me suddenly being swayed to your very offensive, hilariously offensive ask was not going to play. So I think the more constructive note is lose, but don't change who you are. Lose the volleyball match, but don't change the fact that you're a bunch of drunk young adults at the beach. Lose we're getting Thai food and we need to to show them that we're in the club, but don't change the fact that you're super uncomfortable about it. And sometimes people have a hard time. They'll be like, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. I'll just pretend like I'm from Thailand and I'll just kind of, put it in my voice and it'll be awesome. It's like, well, no, not only did you lose the discussion, you also aren't your person anymore,
Well, I'm going to pretend that my philosophy lesson, which shifted to be the thing that you brought up, about the relationship between high forehead culture, we said, or naked forehead culture. I like that a little better.
Okay.
The foreheads are smooth, glistening, smooth forehead culture as opposed to popular culture. You want to feel like you have the exclusive, the inner circle. I mean, I have heard this about some Chinese restaurants or something that
I have heard it too.
Oh yeah, Americans, they can't handle the spice, and so we'll just give them the generic crap. And
from all ethnic restaurants,
yes,
I have heard that. Yes.
And is there a way to beat the system so as a pop philosopher, okay, here's the thing. So the credentialing for philosophy.
Okay.
So that's what, in part, even if a very, very credentialed, academically respected person addresses a public audience, you still might not think, oh, this is just pop philosophy.
Sure.
It more matters who you are than what you're doing. I might retract that on some counterexamples. Because clearly, somebody who the first part of their career was maybe as an esoteric, maybe this is actually what happened to Jordan Peterson, that he was writing his peer-reviewed papers, and then suddenly he has an audience, and so he's going to play to that audience with his next book. And he probably was like, am I Canadian healthcare? Oh, it's me from Canada. I think I'm doing Minnesota. I don't think I'm doing a Canadian accent. I can't. But he probably wasn't. He felt like the doctor wasn't giving him the really good stuff.
Sure.
So he had to put on a lab coat and pretend to be a doctor. Look, I have a PhD. Everybody should call me doctor. And then maybe that would make the doctor give him the good drugs that only other doctors can handle.
Well, I can definitely say that getting attention and getting publicity, even if it may even be more important than money at first, just how addicting it can be, and how probably addicting in ways that you may not even be aware of, and I'm sure it happens all the time where there's someone gets attention for something, some celebrity or and it just goes to their head. The classic thing. We see it all the time, and it happens with celebrities more than not. And then you factor in that agents and managers, and so often there's all these people around you who get a cut of your, of your thing. Publishers want to sell more books. And it's just, you suddenly are surrounded by people who just want you to work, or, you've got Colonel Tom Parkers for days pushing you to do more so they can do better. I'm surprised. We're continually surprised by it.
I'm brought to mind of, instead of, yes, you could see the people who have been raised to the elite positions as being spoiled in that way, that, the person who is the academic, the person who is the cult leader, they've been spoiled by their associations. So, in fact, the in crowd is the people that eschew all that.
Sure.
That are, cult bands, I shouldn't oppose the cult bands to the cult leader. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah. But you know what I mean?
The band, the cult.
The less successful, and say, yeah, actually, we're just trying to do something else. We're not with that mainstream. Maybe this points to, in academic, at least you have institutions that they get to say which is, they actually sought after and rewarded.
Sure.
And I was going to say that the ones who are rewarded, that this is tied in with the ones who are the most, that's a meritocracy. At least it's trying to be a meritocracy. It's few and far between philosophers who then stumble on some other way to much greater riches than you would get through just like having an actually really good academic appointment that supports you to write whatever bullshit books you want, that are not going to be popular enough to pay back all the time you put into it, but yet you're getting rewarded well enough.
Yeah.
Whereas other arts, they don't have that centralization. It's purely market driven. That is the only way that you get rewarded, right? Because there's no, or is the critical apparatus? Is that the substitution? I mean, there's that in music. There's not that in improv. Is there really?
Not really anymore. And you could question that even the moments when it has surfaced, it's quickly been destroyed. The idea of a prestige economy where the richest people are those of most prestige, and that how you get and lose prestige are different necessarily than how you get or lose money or popularity with the general public. Decat myself. I apologize. So it does happen a little bit, probably not to the degree that
isn't the existence of Second City and the Groundlings and UCB that this is like, those are, you've made it. You're now peer approved. It's like your paper has been approved by peers.
Yes. But then again, it's also what's next? You still got to hustle. You still got to do something. There's no tenure. Boy, I sure would love some tenure about now in my life. The idea of just like, hey, but every small little liberal arts college and a hat, and I'll pull one out and I'll take a tenured professor's position there. Oh, sounds great. Sounds great about now.
So you want there to be jesters.
Jesters?
Yes. You want there to be, in every kingdom, have, like a poet laureate, a comedian.
Who speaks truth to power.
Laureate, yes. Who is just paid to, given a nice, comfortable salary to use your craft for the public good.
I would be okay with that. I would be okay with that. Do I get to be one?
I think that they should have...
Do I get a parking space?
In schools, they should have improvisers, really in every school. I mean, you might have to train with a gun as well, so that you're sort of there as double duty.
As security?
So you can stop the school shootings. But mostly, hopefully that wouldn't come up very often. And so mostly you'd just be there to provide an improvisatory presence to the students to keep their minds from getting closed.
I think we might be starting a scene right now, Mark. If we are, do you want to try the lose but don't change who you are technique?
Sure.
I don't want additional guns in schools. I think the solution is probably just to keep guns away from schools.
I mean, I don't think that's very realistic. Schools are basically giant magnets, and all the guns in the neighborhood get attracted to the schools.
Come on, really?
Yeah, I mean, for one, there's peer pressure for the students. The kid with the next locker is going to have a switchblade, is going to have just a pistol. And so you're going to want to have your AKG.
And the solution is to have improvisers paid to walk around with guns. That's your solution.
Okay. First of all, everybody knows that improvisers are big losers. So if you pay improvisers to walk around with guns, that's going to associate big loser, gun. And then suddenly the kids are going to be like, actually, I don't want to bring a gun to school.
Mark, does this sound reasonable to you?
I think that,
I mean, really,
it could be reasonable if with budgeting. I mean, I guess there are budgeting problems.
I mean, maybe when children see someone with a gun, that person becomes cool simply because they have a gun.
What if they're smoking?
That's even more cool. Someone smoking with a gun is unapproachably cool to somebody in junior high or high school.
Are air guitarists cool?
Even cooler. You're just
air guitar. I was trying to think of something.
You're digging this hole deeper. All right.
So they have a gun in one hand, a cigarette, an air guitar in the other hand. However, it seems like you need both hands but you got the gun strapped to your back. You don't have to carry them.
I think you're overthinking this. I think if kids see anybody with a gun smoking, doing anything else, you are already on so far up the cool mountain. You could do something pretty uncool and it would become cool by association.
So this is then, instead of a way that would make guns less cool for kids, it would make improv more cool for kids. Isn't that kind of a win-win?
I need you to agree. That adding armed improvisers to the school is a bad idea.
I mean, fine. If we don't have to add as many armed improvisers as I originally...
How about zero? Armed
proposed? It's just that, are you going to positively ban armed improvisers from the school?
I'm going to ban armed anybody from school.
It's just that's going to make more armed improvisers show up. If you ban them, it's probably better. I mean, I understand there are budgetary problems and you might not want to encourage armed improvisers, but it's like a no-win situation. If you ban them, they're just going to show up more. You're going to tell them, you armed improvisers, you can't come in the schools.
If we ban armed grizzly bears, will that mean more armed grizzly bears will show up in school?
I mean, that's ridiculous. The grizzly bears don't have human psychology. Humans are the only ones who are bastard contrarians.
Okay, no more armed airline pilots are now barred from school. Will we suddenly see a huge uptick in armed airline pilots?
I mean, it's possible. It just makes sense.
It's unlikely, Mark. It's unlikely. It's unlikely. I think if we want to have improvisers in school, they should maybe be running the theater club. Doesn't that sound like a better use?
Running the theater club?
Or just in charge of administering the theater.
Oh, I mean, how much is in charge? Like, do you get the power over life and death?
No. What person at school has that power?
Isn't the imagination the most powerful thing? And so whoever has the power over the children's imaginations really has the power over life choices.
Mark, I was thinking we could have a solution of maybe we only have one entrance and exit for the school so we can control who's coming in and out. Now, the fire exits will certainly be available in emergency, but we'll have one entryway and exit point. And that way administrators can stand out front, administrators can stand in the school and know exactly who's coming in and who's going out. How about that solution? Does that sound a bit more reasonable?
But who controls their imaginations?
They're adults, and they will control their imagination via willpower.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
Can you control your imagination? I'm not sure if you can. I take that question. I retract my question.
You don't want to know what I'm imagining right now. I mean, it's got the spice in it.
Oh, gross. Look, I get it. It's another few months before that next Dune comes out. Can we just keep it in our pants till then?
All right. This school board meeting is now at an end.
Yeah.
We had something like this, a lesson like this before where you're trying to reverse course. It's hard for me to do it gradually. Like either you just are doing it and then like, oh, okay. But here it seemed like, all right, fine. I'll get rid of that thing. But here's another bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay. But is that in the spirit of the lesson you had in mind there?
I think it definitely could be. And I think what the difficult part is, it's that your character is not, I want armed improvisers at school. Your character is, I think we could solve this gun situation creatively. Does that make sense? I'm obsessed with the arts. I mean, so you almost have to kind of take a step back from your character and realize that like, it's not Flo isn't just a server at a diner in Tucson, Arizona. She is sassy and she can get another job somewhere else, not work at a diner and still be sassy. There can be
right, Flo.
There are grits to be kissed all throughout the city. And not just literal grits or metaphorical grits, but there are grits. There are so many different grits that can be kissed, Flo. And I think if we just take a step back and realize that there are.
Just when I'm calling customer service and they start saying they don't even understand, they're talking a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And I tell them, kiss my grits. And they say, I do not get the reference. And I say, that's a very offensive accent you're doing. Stop it right there.
But that's their real accent, Flo. That's really how they talk.
Well, that's ridiculous. Where do they get off with that?
Seen. All right. You're welcome.
People don't want to hear that voice for another. I guess we're getting toward the end of the episode here. So.
Yes, we are.
I thought there might be something else to mine philosophically with this idea of the popular, the gatekeepers versus the, I think I just said both of the things. The interaction between those two things I find interesting. In other words, what is popular and what has a gatekeeper?
Yes.
The funniest thing is when something is both. That like, oh, you don't really get Taylor Swift. Like you have to, that there are self-appointed gatekeepers to the most popular thing in the world. Because I guess
what is there to get?
I mean, I guess there are layers. Hopefully it's something that has risen to that level of popularity. It's because there are multiple ways of appreciating, because you couldn't get that many people to agree on one thing. And so I might appreciate Young Sheldon, which I have actually seen all of that show.
That's fine.
For
no
certain
judgment.
reasons. Whereas, the plebes who would not appreciate Upright Citizens Brigade or whatever probably are getting young Sheldon on a different level.
Well, and that's the whole other thing is that even the snottiest, I mean, I love dirty jokes. I love them all day, and I can say I'm elitist or a snob, but like, fart jokes just daily, and like we do have sometimes, there are quote unquote guilty pleasures, where it's just like, best thing about the dentist, People magazine. I'll plow right through a People magazine as much as I make fun of it, so I think there is something about popular culture that even if we don't necessarily consume it by the gallon, or even if we look down our noses at it a little bit, it is the popular culture. It is what's going on. It is what 70% of people, the overwhelming majority of people are taking part in. And we would be remiss, too elitist, snobs to not realize that, no, this is what's going on. And it's not ignoble just because it's popular.
Sure. I'm completely divorced from football, which is very popular in my, there's a Packers game. There's a college game going on in town here, whatever. And you can't even drive on the streets if there's a college game going on in Madison here. And I don't dismiss it because I recognize, I feel better about that. There are football geeks.
Yeah.
There is so much. I mean, that's actually what scares me about it. It's that I don't feel like I could enjoy it on the level that it deserves.
Okay. I'm by that.
Right? You got to know the history of the game. You got to know all this stuff to really get it the way that I like to get things.
And all the cheers, especially for a college team. You got to know all the cheers and all the fight songs and everything. Yeah.
If you are not doing the cheers with them, I mean, they might just kiss your grits. The people around you in the stands. I mean,
they'll kick you in the grits. I think that's the issue. Yeah.
Your grits are not going to come out in good condition is really what it comes down to.
I would agree. I would concur. As someone who went to a football powerhouse, I would concur.
So anyway, I find that philosophy, the thought of the intersection between those two things interesting. But every time we start a scene, I feel like the allure of the improv.
But it's what we created.
Just maybe completely forget about incorporating any of the philosophy at all. So
you're in the moment.
I'm going to vote improv this time.
That's fine. I will take the victory because you're in the moment, Mark. You realize that what we create together, what we discover together could be more interesting and more compelling than necessarily something we have from the outside.
Well, I think we'll leave that to the listeners to decide.
Yes, we will. We will.
If you positively felt that this was a compelling experience, why don't you put a comment on the blog post or YouTube video or however you were experiencing this.
And feel free to write it in your own fun, broken English accent.
Yeah. How much can we talk about doing that kind of thing without it actually being offensive? That is
yes.
A good question, a line that I plan to continue to walk through the remainder of this podcast's life, as short as that may be.
Well, I learned a lot from you, Mark.
Well, I learned a lot from you today, Bill.
And
scene. Hope you enjoyed the show. Get more at philosophyimprov.com. If you want to support the show and not have to hear any more commercials and get our post-game segments, you can see options to do that at philosophyimprov.com/support. Thanks.